Okay, hi everybody. This is Carmela at Carmela's Rasslin Radio Relived. Um, as I said before, we were going to try to go back into the old days, and relive a lot of stuff from the old times. We're going to do that and then ultimately maybe move up a little bit as we go along into maybe we'll talk about WrestleMania in a couple weeks and stuff like that. But I did say that I was going to have a lot of guests. My friend Jeannie is here. Hi, Jeannie.
Hello, hello.
We are going to eventually get her on screen with me every week. We have to get another setup with seating. But today I'm very, very excited. I have a dear friend of mine who I met a million years ago. Okay. He is to the WWF what Michael Cole, I would say, is to the WWE right now, in my opinion, because there was really not a lot of commentary back then. But in my opinion, he is the guy. Okay, he was ring announcer for a lot of years. His name is Gary Michael Cappetta. I'm sorry, I messed that up. Gary, how are you?
If you're looking for old, you came to the right place.
Well, no, I don't think
You're
so.
not
I'm
going to
older
get
than
much
you.
older than me.
I'm older than you. I can lay you money on that one. How are you?
Oops, I guess I said the wrong thing then.
Yeah, you can get older than you.
I'm doing really good. Thanks. Yeah.
Good. So I hear good things, okay, if I'm not mistaken. I did a little bit of reading last night, a little bit of research.
Uh-oh.
You're going to be in Nutley, New Jersey coming up soon. Is that correct? Doing ring announcing?
Yes. Saturday, April the 13th.
Okay.
I'm going to, there's an IWF. It's a really good independent wrestling promotion in northern New Jersey. This is going to be in Nutley. And I'm going to be doing some guest ring announcing.
Wow.
So that means I think they have a double main event that night. So I'll probably announce those two matches.
Cool.
Yeah, I go out and, maybe a half dozen times a year, and I do guest ring announcing. Then I do some conventions. And I'm going to, there's a new project. Dave Penzer had, and your listeners know Dave from WCW Nitro.
Okay.
And also most recently TNA. So he's
Okay.
been the ring announcer for those promotions. He had asked me about going out on the road with him and doing, I don't know, like Q&As, or I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I just heard this morning that there's a possibility that we're gonna start. There's interest. So
Wow.
that'll be interesting because
and
I did tour a little bit with my stage show. So
Mhm.
this is comparable to that.
Now wait a minute. Stage show. What stage
Yeah.
show? Tell us about that.
Oh, how could you missed my stage show?
I missed it.
I did it in Philly at one of the comedy clubs.
Get
But
out.
this was pre-pandemic. This was a while
Okay.
ago. People people absorb information in different ways, and not
Right.
everybody reads or is a reader. And so I had my book Body Slams. So I decided that I was going to go on the road and present a lot of the stories from my book on stage. And I had a
Wow.
giant screen behind me. And as I'm
That's
telling
awesome.
stories, you're seeing like Jimmy Snuka attack me. You're seeing George Steele chase me. You're
Oh.
seeing, Mick Foley losing his ear the night that I picked up his ear in Munich, Germany. Like whatever I was talking about, Bruno, you're seeing Gorilla Monsoon, Andre the Giant. I talked about all of the folks that I had the privilege of knowing in my career.
Wow, that's beautiful because I'm telling stories too. Ever since I was a little kid, I started going wrestling when I was 6 years old. And I was back with the wrestlers. Like my parents were such good friends with them that I used to sit in the back with them all the time. And then as time went on, we talked about them coming to my house, eating dinner there, hanging out, whatever. And it's like we both have a ton of stories to talk about.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your book. What made you decide to write a book?
I didn't start with the intention of writing a book. When I finished with WCW in 1995, it was difficult to transition to come off the road. I was on the road about 200 nights a year,
For
the
sure.
one nighters, and so it was just difficult that all of a sudden to come back and boom, you're doing nothing. You're not going
Right.
anywhere.
Absolutely.
So I just decided I was going to maybe, just write some thoughts, some memories. It was like a therapeutic exercise to begin with. And then I didn't stop. And for 2 years, I sat home and I wrote. I didn't do any other kind of work. That's what I did. And I loved it. I loved doing it. And that's how it came about.
Wow, that's awesome. So you have all your stories in there as well as the work that you've done according to that. Now, I wanted to hear real quick. You mentioned Mick Foley, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask you anyway.
Yeah.
Could you please tell us how that transpired, what happened with his ear and all that stuff?
Yeah. What a lot of people don't realize is that it happened way before the night his ear came off.
Right,
Because every night he would do the same move where he'd get slung into the ropes, he'd insert his head between the top and the center rope, and then he'd flip over.
right.
And then the referee would do his best to open the ropes, but it's difficult to do that.
Yes.
And his ears would get nicked every night. So by the time we got to Munich, Germany, his ears were just hanging. I mean,
Oh,
he would
God.
he would tape his ears down,
Wow.
and they were always like pussy, and I mean, it was
Oh,
gross.
poor
So
Mick.
that was more like the final straw, that,
Yeah,
um, and he was wrestling Vader, and the referee that night was a guy by the name. This was in Europe, so it was a guy by the name of Didier Gep. He was a Frenchman, and he didn't speak English,
right,
and he didn't know this move. And the American referees, for different reasons, had to go back to the States. So this guy was brought in,
right.
and the ring ropes were extra tight. So when Foley did that move, the guy didn't know to try to
Pull the
open the
ropes.
ropes, and they were extra tight, and it didn't fall off at that point when he went through, but it cut it again so that he took one shot from Vader, and when his head whiplashed back, the ear came off.
Oh,
And the referee, I didn't know that, right? I'm sitting at ringside, I'm
right.
sitting nose to the mat, at the timekeeper's table. And I noticed the referee like squat down, and his fingers were like a tweezer. And I saw him grab something. I had no idea. And
Oh
we
my.
couldn't talk to each other because I don't speak French. He didn't speak English.
Okay.
And he came over and he was yelling. But I did understand. He said, ambulance, ambulance. So I get
Oh
it.
no. Yeah, you got to call an ambulance.
And he flipped me the ear. So I picked the ear up and put it in my hand. And I would never leave ringside, ever.
No, ever. I know you
I'm
wouldn't.
sitting there giving time cues back then. We didn't have earpieces.
Exactly.
So I run back stage, and Ric Flair was in charge that night.
Right.
And it was really dark, and you couldn't see much in the back. And I said to him, Rick, I've got Cactus's ear in my hand. He
Oh.
said, what are you doing back here? I said, I've got Cactus's ear in my hand. He said, are you feeling okay? I said, come here. And I grabbed him by the arm, and I brought him underneath a downlight in the Sporthalle in Munich, Germany. And
Right.
he looked at it, and he looked at me, and he looked at it, and he looked at me, and he said, damn, that's an ear. I said, yeah, I've been trying
After
to
all
tell you,
that.
like, we need to put it on ice. If there's
Oh
going to
my
be any
God.
chance of it, attaching it back to his head, it needs to
Yeah.
go on ice. So then I
Wow.
ran in and out of the dressing rooms looking for the doctor, because he would be the person that would have the ice.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, it was really unfortunate, but I mean, you could see it coming. At some point, it was going to happen.
That's crazy. Oh my God. I
Yeah.
can't believe that. And it's funny because then when he wrestled in the United States,
Hmm.
everybody thought that that was the first and only time that his ear came off. When he
Well,
said
that
that,
was the only time it came off, but it had been like it was severed little by little by little. It was like
right,
getting nicked.
but you said you held it in your hand.
Yeah.
So it came off in Germany
Yeah.
the first time. Is that
Uh,
correct?
the only time.
Okay, so what was the episode about in America where he when that was when his teeth went through his top lip when he had that incident and
Oh
his
no,
teeth
that
went through his okay,
I
what
don't know
happened
about that.
was yeah, he had an incident where his teeth went through his top lip and when they showed him his teeth were like all the way up to here but then they said that was when his ear came off. So I guess something else must have happened that night. And the Munich thing never came out in the press or anything like that to us. It all
Hmm.
happened in the United States, which of course is probably what was supposed to be said, you know. But
Ah,
um, but that's crazy, unbelievable. But I'm glad everybody's hearing this. We talked also about Andre the Giant. I knew Andre
that
well.
that that was funny.
It was funny
You're glad everyone's hearing it. We're talking about losing an ear.
hearing and everybody's hearing it. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's all right, Gary. Don't worry about it. Well, anyway,
I'm
we talked.
listening carefully.
Okay, we talked about Andre, and I knew Andre very well. And I believe I told this to the fans that I learned French in high school for 4 years. Then afterwards, I learned it on my own. Okay, after that, and I met Andre, and I used to write letters to him. Um, we had a place where I could send them, and he would have somebody pick them up or whatever. And then he'd call me, and he'd go over the letters with me and say what I did right, what I did wrong. Do you have any good experiences? Like, hopefully, the most of them were good. But what were your experiences like with Andre?
Oh, I've only had good experiences with Andre. Um,
He he was a great guy, though.
oh yeah. There were not many people that Andre didn't like,
Right.
but you didn't want to be one of them.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I never experienced that. And I would get to, the venue and he'd be playing cards with Arnold Skolin. And,
Yeah.
he was just, hey, boss, how you doing? He would always call everybody boss.
Yeah.
Um, and no, I had a great deal of respect for him. He had respect for me. And I never had one negative experience. I think it's interesting that if you walk down the street and you mention Andre the Giant to the average person out on the street, they're going to think of Princess Bride.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
become such a cult favorite movie.
Oh, unbelievable. My kids and I actually still watch it now, and everybody's full grown, but it's a really good movie. I also read that during that movie, he was in terrible pain, and they had to do a
Hmm.
lot of prosthetics and stuff like that to, make it look like he was actually doing the things he was doing. But let's go back a little bit. What year did you start being a ring announcer?
1974. This is my
Okay.
50th anniversary year.
God bless you. Now, are you in the 50th year? Or are you just starting it or is it ending? Where are you in that 50th year?
July 6th, 1974. So we're
Okay.
almost to the 50th anniversary.
Wow. And what are you doing to celebrate? I read something about an induction of some kind. Do you have a Hall of Fame thing coming up?
No,
No? Oh, I thought I
no.
read something about that. Well, you never know. Maybe I just spilled the beans.
Maybe you spilled some beans.
I don't know.
I haven't really thought about it, of like
Mhm.
celebrating. I haven't,
Oh, you
don't know.
should. How about if
What?
we do this? When you want to celebrate, you let me know. You come back on the air and we'll do a big, nice celebration all about you and your 50th year. And maybe uh, we'll air maybe some pictures from your book, and tell some stories about the individual pictures. My friend Brian, God bless him, this is all new to me. Okay. So he's going to show me how to do all that stuff. So maybe while you're talking, we can pop a picture in here and there. Um, all right, question.
Forget about popping a picture. I want to be there with you, and we'll pop the cork for the champagne.
All right. Hey, right here
If
next
we're
to
going to
me.
celebrate,
Okay, you got it. All right, now you said that in public. Okay, so you
I said
got
we
it.
have to. I didn't say I was traveling. I'm in Florida these days.
Are you in Florida right now?
Yeah.
Oh wow, I thought you still lived up this way.
I moved about a little over a year ago.
Do you like it better there?
I like it. It's I'm a Jersey guy. I'll always be a Jersey guy. So that's not going to change. I miss. I don't know if you had. Did you have much snow this winter?
Not really. We did have 2 storms, but they weren't anything dramatic.
I love the snow. That's the one thing I'd miss. But I can always travel north when it snows.
Yeah. What, do you have family up here?
Oh yeah, I have brothers and nephews and nieces in New Jersey.
Okay. Well, I have my friend Jeannie here. She's not on camera right now because we have to fix this setup so that she can
Jeannie.
sit here with me.
Hi, Gary. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
All right. I'm sure she has a question or two for you.
I do.
She can talk and you can move your lips. And then it'll be like, forget about it. I'm sorry.
No.
You got me up early on a Saturday morning, so I'm a little weird.
Oh, wait a minute. This was your request to do it early, remember?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so you got me up early.
Wow, that was quick. You're right.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead, Jeannie.
So I want to hear the story because I do not know it. That you were known as the world's most dangerous announcer, and that was that name was given to you by Jim Cornette. How did that come about?
Well, that's true, but there's not much of a story to it. It was Jim Cornette was on commentary, and it comes the origin of it was David Letterman, actually. So David Letterman grew up in Indianapolis. He was a wrestling fan, and he watched the world's most dangerous wrestler, Dick the Bruiser. And then when he had his talk show and he had his band, he called his band the world's most dangerous band, Paul Schaefer. And I don't know why Jim Cornette just dubbed me the world's most dangerous. It was probably just probably a joke. It was probably because I'm the least dangerous person in the world. So I think it was like funny to him.
Yeah.
And it stuck. So
well, you're actually one of the nicest.
The world's most dangerous announcer, and they call me GMC. So those are my nicknames.
Oh, well, there you go. Do you have another one?
Yeah.
Okay, she has another one for you.
I do. I also saw that there is you are working possibly on a screenplay, Fall for the Dream.
I wrote the screenplay when I wrote around the same time period that I wrote my book. Because I found that when I was writing my book, I couldn't accurately quote wrestlers because, we're talking about things that happened 20 years ago, at that point.
Right.
So, but I could hear them. I can hear them speak. And it wasn't difficult to come up with a sentence and as you read it and you hear it, yes, that's how Bruno would talk. Yes, that's how Andre would speak. So I found that to be the easiest part, and it was a lot of fun. So what's a screenplay but dialogue? It's all dialogue.
Right.
So it really was. I created it initially as an upsell for my book. So when you called at the time, you could call an 800 number, order my book. The operator would say, "Oh, and Gary also has a screenplay. Would you like to include that in your order?" So I had them published and bound. And it follows the career of a young up and coming wrestler, and by the end of the movie, he's head to head at odds with the owner of the promotion, and his last match in the movie is real. He needs, in order to save himself, in order to save his life, it's a shoot.
It's
Oh
a
my
shoot,
gosh,
yeah.
that
Wow.
sounds amazing.
That's
I would
crazy.
definitely go see that.
I would definitely like to see that too.
Yes.
Is there any way we can see it?
Well, no, it's never been picked up. It's never been made into a movie.
Oh,
We need to get a petition out
oh yeah,
to get this.
definitely, definitely. How long ago did you write it?
24 years ago.
Is it still available for reading along with your book?
I have copies.
I'm going to have to get one of those from you and read it because I really like stuff like that. It's now when you say it's about a wrestler, upcoming wrestler, is there anybody in particular that it's about, or just somebody you created?
Someone I created. Yeah, in the movie, his name is Dino Corporato, I think was the name.
Okay.
A young Italian guy coming up.
Nah, really? Italian name like that? Are you kidding? I thought it was Irish.
You write what you know.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I've been thinking about writing a book myself. I talked to you about that already, if
Yep.
you remember. It's very difficult. People don't realize how hard it is. Everybody's always saying to me, write a book, you know. But it's difficult because, like you said, a lot of it could be called hearsay because those people aren't around. And all you can do is speak from your heart and your mind, what you remember, what you've been through, what you know. And, you know, how do you prove any of that? You know, I mean, you really can't. Like, I have a picture up on Facebook of Andre the Giant and me, and then Andre the Giant and my mother. And people have actually accused me of using a poster board, a cutout of
Photoshop.
Andre. Yeah, or Photoshop and standing in front of him. And it's funny because like the one where I'm standing in front of him, my hands are down like this and we're holding hands. You can't really see the hands. But my mother, his arm is literally around her shoulder. And it's like, you know, it was a Polaroid. It was a retake of a Polaroid. So of course it looks crappy, you know. But that's what I'm trying to say. Like, how do you can't prove any of that. You know, it's only your words, only hearsay. But I would love to write a book about, you know, I'm 66 years old. So we're talking 60 years of stories, you know, and 60 years of memories and my parents and what we did years ago and that kind of thing. So I'd still like to try and do it, but, you know, we'll see what happens at some point. But I have another question for you. Were you ever injured by a wrestler during a match of some kind or at the end of the match, or like, did you ever have any injuries?
Yeah, I guess the worst one was the night that Iron Mike Sharp knocked me out.
Wow.
At the Philadelphia Spectrum. Remember, he used to wear that armband.
Yes.
He didn't actually knock me out. He knocked me out of the ring, and then when I flew out, my head hit the metal railing, you know, in front of the front row, and I was out.
Wow.
But I mean, I wasn't really hurt. I mean, it was a temporary thing, and
he must have been devastated when he found out that that happened.
He didn't like the decision that the referee made when I announced it. He ran after me, and that's, you know, I was trying to get away from him.
Oh my God! All right, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit right now. If you had to come up with 3 really, really memorable times in your career, can you give me 3?
Oh, okay, that's better. I usually don't do the best, the worst, the most, the least.
Okay.
You know, 50 years. You can't.
It's hard. Yes.
And 95% of the people that I've met in wrestling are terrific. You know, wonderful people.
Right.
There are very few scabs that I've come across.
Right.
Well, that would be one, probably the night I got knocked out.
Okay.
I thought it was really cool to announce at Royal Albert Hall in London.
Oh, wow.
Where the Queen's box is.
Nice.
It
I
was
get that would
cool.
be a good one. Yeah.
And I became friendly with the roadies, and they were Brits. And when we got to Royal Albert Hall, I'm following the wrestlers to to where they were going to get dressed, and they pulled my arm and they said, "No, no, no, we have someplace else for you." And we went under the stage to the conductor's dressing room.
Oh, wow.
So that
Look
was
at
pretty
you.
cool. I mean, I'd rather be
Yeah.
with the guys, to tell you the truth, but it was very nice of them, and it was pretty cool. So that's that was one. Um, I always say, like I said, I don't do best worst, but
Right.
there are series of matches. There are two series of matches from two different eras of my career that you knew at the time. I knew at the time that I was introducing them that they meant something. One was when I was with WWF. Um, let's see, I'm sure you remember this. It was the Philadelphia Spectrum,
Oh,
3 months in a row. Bruno versus Superstar Billy Graham.
oh, yeah.
Sold out each night, 19,500, 3 consecutive shows. Like Bruno was my hero growing up,
Hmm.
and then became friend, and Superstar Billy Graham was really cool,
Yeah.
and that was important. And then when I was working with NWA WCW, another 3 match series between Ric Flair and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat
Oh,
for the world title.
they were some of the best matches.
Yeah, New Orleans, I think Nashville, and maybe Chicago. 3 different, either pay-per-views or Clash of Champions. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, so those are my fondest memories.
Did you what actually made you become a ring announcer? Did you have that in your head, or did it just happen?
No, no, they didn't have anyone to do it at Wildwood one night, and I just volunteered because Willie Gilzenberg was remember Willie?
Yes, I do. I remember Willie. Oh my
Um,
God.
Now Willie, at the time, he was probably younger than I am now, but
Okay.
at 21 years old, I looked at him like he was ancient. And he didn't have a ring announcer, and he was doing the announcing in between, and it was taking forever. And so I just said, if you want, and he didn't know me from anywhere.
Yeah.
If you want, I'll do it. He said, okay, but you sit here at the timekeeper's table, because I was wearing t-shirt and jeans. I was like,
Yeah.
and at the end of the night, he came up to me and he said, "Hey, kid," and he called me kid for the next 11 years. He said, "Hey, kid, uh, that wasn't bad." He said, "Did you have any experience doing that?" And that was the first lie that I told in wrestling. And I
Uh-oh.
said, "Sure."
Ton of it. A ton. I have a ton. Yeah.
Thank God he didn't ask me what it was, because I don't have an answer to that. And he said, "Okay, next week is the 4th of July. The 4th of July weekend. Back here, remember, Wildwood was every week
Right?
in the
I do
summer."
remember that. I was there all the time.
Yeah. And he said, "Wear a jacket and tie and we'll put you in the ring." And
Wow.
that
And the
started it.
rest is
Monsoon
history.
liked what I did. Monsoon called me that fall, and had started. I had just graduated from college, and my starting my first job in the fall, and he called me and asked if I want. He was just starting to promote. Remember,
Right.
as a partner with McMahon.
Right.
So I said, if you'd like, we can try it. I'm going to be working, and I'll do my best to get to where you need me to be at night.
Yeah.
He said, yeah. He said, you will. It's not a big deal.
What
Yeah.
was it like being with Gorilla Monsoon? Now that you mentioned him, I always liked him a lot. He was always very kind to me. I imagine he was probably good to work with.
He was excellent. he's the reason that I had a career in pro wrestling. He's the guy that put me in, in the ring to begin with. If you think back, I was working 2 to 3 times a week
Right.
in New Jersey. It was, and then add Philly in. It was amazing.
Yeah.
That's that's a lot. Those were a lot of shows.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, people may not know there was no independent wrestling. It
No.
was WWF, and that was it.
Well, it was all territorial back then. There was no stepping into somebody else's territory. Like WWF had the East Coast pretty much, and everybody stayed in their own lane, so to speak. Now of course everything's different, but back then it was easier. Like I had said during our last podcast, it was easier to get to a wrestler, to talk to a wrestler, to get to know a wrestler, because that's all there was those wrestlers right there, And later on, as time went on and we did our Rasslin Radio show, we got to actually work with the NWA, and then things had started by then, stepping over the lines a little bit, which I thought was pretty cool. But I kind of liked it a lot too when it was just territorial. To me, that made it easier. Again, like I said, because you remember back then, they had to do their own trans, they had to do their own food, they had to do their own hotels. So everybody just wound up coming to my house. It was easier that way. And my mom, I don't know if you know this or not, but last week I had said the first people that ever came to our house were Tony Parisi, who was then Pugliese, and Gino Brito, who was Louis Jordan at the time. And we had them in our house, and my mom's cooking dinner at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden they burst into the most beautiful opera. I've never heard it in person, but they sang so eloquently. It was unbelievable. And then in the middle of the night, like my neighbors were banging on the door, went to come in, and there was nothing like back then. You know what I mean? And today you watch it, it's cool and all this stuff, but that personal, that closeness just isn't there anymore, And I do miss that a lot. I really do, which is why you waited 2 years and you wrote your story in 2 years. I waited 40 in order to do this again. And this didn't even cross my mind at all until, long story short, a friend of mine, found one of our Rasslin Radio tapes on YouTube and said to me, "Wouldn't you like to leave a legacy for your family?" And I was like, "Oh, I never thought of that, but it's true, and you have one to leave now for your family." And I think it's important to do stuff like that when you have the opportunity, Jeannie, do you have any more questions?
Just the one question that I did have, you answered on how you got into ring announcing. I go to a lot of independent shows, and the ring announcing is just not good.
Not Gary.
No, not Gary. I'm saying, the real young,
Why do you say that?
Guys.
What don't you like?
Well, I went to a show last month, and the guy was just, nice man, sweet man, but he was just that constant over the top of every word. And by the end of the night, my ears were bleeding.
Oh,
it was just
God.
like, oh my gosh, stop, just stop. Plus he kept mispronouncing the name of the town that he was in. And it was just, oh, Lord. And I never want to, but it just.
The reason for that.
You don't have to be over the top. Like, I get it. You have to get the crowd into it and all of that. Yes. But it was every word of every,
That's what they see on television, and that's what they mimic.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
But now nobody's you. Other than
Right.
you, I really enjoyed Howard Finkel.
Mm-hmm.
God bless him. God rest his soul. He was good at what he did as well. But I go way back with you, So to me, it's kind of like I grew up watching, listening, to you, but you were always extremely professional. Like I said that to Brian before you even came on. I said, Gary is always very professional. He's very, good with what he says and, how he does it. You were always always did everything correctly, and I liked it. You never made mistakes that I was aware of. You always seemed like you were super prepared.
I appreciate that. Yeah, the difference, I think the difference is that my presentation was sports based and today's presentation is entertainment based.
Right.
So if you go to the circus, you will hear the same introduction style as what you see on TV wrestling today.
Yeah, you're right. You know that?
Yeah, I mean, they don't
Yeah.
announce time limits, so I guess there's never going to be a draw in WWE. They do
Yeah.
announce time limits in AEW.
AEW, yes, they do.
Half the time, they don't like announce where someone's from, um, weights,
Nope.
and I think women's weights should be announced too. What's the big deal?
But see, the thing I never liked was they don't announce women's weights, but they always announce Nia Jax's weight. And I took offense to that because she's a heavier woman. And that was them saying, yeah, well, we're going to announce her weight because she's a big girl. Why? I mean, she has worked as hard, if not harder, than anybody else getting to where she is today. Treat her the same way as you treat other people. You know what I mean? It's just, I admire her. I think she's an amazing performer, wrestler, whatever you want to call her. But I don't like
she's beautiful.
that. She's
a beautiful
gorgeous.
woman.
She's gorgeous. But
I would reverse it though. I would say that everybody's weight should be announced.
Exactly. I agree.
I mean, if you're an athlete and you're like, what's the big deal? Like, we always would announce Mulat's weight and Joyce Grable's weight and Vicky Williams' weight. We always did because they were competitors in the ring, where they're from, what they weigh.
Right, but like you said, today is more entertainment and there's more vanity, I think, involved too. Like, especially with a lot of pressure that was put on these women over the years, going back years of, what they had to look like. You remember the divas. I mean, everybody had to look a certain way. It's almost like being a stewardess. You almost had to weigh a certain weight, and now women are being recognized more for their athleticism and not what they look like, which I think is wonderful. I think that's how it should be. It should always have been. But I think that it's important that across the board, everybody gets the same treatment. Like you said, everybody gets the same treatment. Everybody does the same thing. And, these women today, they've always worked hard, but there's so many of them now. And they are doing so many things that are, high flyers and all this stuff that years ago we had pretty much the Moolah. I don't even remember some of the names now. There's so many of them. We had the Moolah. We had Joyce Grable.
Tony Rose.
Oh my
Williams.
God. Leilani Kai. All those, and they were just normal women. They didn't they exercised and all that stuff. But today everything is about the glamour and the glitz and blah blah blah. And I wish it would go back to the way it was as far as that goes. That's why I like talking about what happened years ago, because I think it gives people an insight to what we witnessed years ago compared to what's going on now. I think the women today are very athletic. They work out like demons. They really do. If you've seen any of their workouts, especially one in particular I can mention, Stephanie McMahon. She used to post her workouts on Instagram. God bless her. I couldn't even imagine. Did you ever see her workouts? No. I can't imagine her doing the things that she did. I couldn't imagine doing it. So, I mean, you got to give people credit for that. But I do agree. Everybody should be treated exactly the same. So I have to ask you, do you have anything that you'd like to add? I mean, do you want to give an email or some way that the fans could maybe get your book again? Or
well, just to repeat, for those folks that are going to see this shortly after we record it, because it's only about 3 weeks away, I'll be in Nutley, New Jersey.
Good. Okay.
Saturday, April 13th, to guest ring announce for IWF. Check if you want to get in touch, or you want to check out what I'm doing and look at my content. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. It's GMC, my initials, GMC for real on, it's the number 4 real, GMC for real on
Okay.
Facebook, and Gary Cappetta on Twitter. So,
Okay.
and watch out for Dave Penzer and I coming out on the road.
Good. I want to know that. As soon as I know that, I'm going to announce it. Also, I have to be honest with you. I steal some of your stuff. I'm not going to lie.
Oh,
Some of the pictures that you put up on Facebook, like if I have memories for those particular people, I'll take them, I'll share it, but then I'll put my little blurb up there, like this is what
well, that's
I
good.
know,
Good
and
way
you
to
know, that
share
kind
it.
of stuff. Yeah, I share it. Sometimes I take a picture if it's completely different, but I do like to share a lot of your stuff, and I'm
That's
very, I'm very excited that you came. I'm very excited that you're here. And I'm
Thank you.
sorry that, you had to get up so early in the morning because of me. But
No, I
Gary,
appreciate you inviting me on one of your first episodes.
you're the first
very
one of the
cool.
first people I thought of. I got more people coming. We
Good.
talked to Davey O'Hannon. We talked to Heidi Lee Morgan, Tom Brandy. We're going down the road like that. I'm taking it a little bit at a time. But I just wanted to thank you again so much. You have shed a light that some of us didn't have any idea was shining, and I appreciate that. And please keep in touch, and thank you so much for being here. And we're looking forward to having you again.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
It's been fun.
Thank you. Well, you take
Yep.
care, and I'll be in touch soon.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
Bye,
bye-bye.
Gary.
Bye-bye. Okay, we're going to bring Brian back up here for a minute. And just going to go over a little bit of what happened. Gary Cappetta was, in my opinion, one of the best ring announcers ever. Okay, he was very, 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 very classy all the time. Just a little kid when I met him, like I was, And it's funny hearing other people's stories. I love hearing stories, just like some of you do. And we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep on going and going and going and going because there's so much more to tell. And like I said, hopefully by next week, or no, we're not going to do a live next week. We're going to run one of our Rasslin Radio tapes next week.
Is it now? Which one is it going to be? Is it going to be one of the first one? It's going to be in order, right? We're going to have it in. I always miss this word up. Chronological order. I got
order.
it right. Woo!
Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. We're going to play when we can't do a live show. We're going to play a tape, and we're going to, excuse me, Brian. I was going to say somebody else's name is going to help put everything together. God bless him. If it wasn't for this man, I would not be here. Okay, so I just want you to know that. We're also going to fix up this setup here so that my friend Jeannie can sit with me and she can be on the air with me every week. Okay.
So, real quick, if you're listening to this with us, we went all the way to the end with us. We're going to play that show next week in a place of an actual live show or us talking. And then if you have any questions whatsoever about that show, about the Gary show, about whatever show, start sending questions there on Carmela's Facebook or email. The email will be in the description of the podcast. Email us questions about the show, about anything. We would be, Carmela would be happy to answer your questions about. We really like some discussion and engagement about the old show. I haven't heard it yet neither, so I'm excited about hearing what it was, and then I'll probably have my own questions too.
Perfect. Well, what we're going to do is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, one of them, if I don't know if it's the first one or not, but one of them is about Magnum TA's accident with his motorcycle. And we're gonna play. Hopefully, we're gonna play them all during the course of the rest of my life. But the email that you want to send questions to is 316 Carmela. It's CARMELA 1L 316 Carmela @gmail.com. Send all your questions there. I'm on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you want. You can message me on Messenger for Facebook, whatever you like. And what we're going to do at one point is we're going to try and have a whole show about the questions. And also listen next week. Brian's going to put it up for us next week. Listen next week and listen to the radio show. And
I
we're
can't
going,
wait. That's going to be fun.
we're going to talk about all that too. Also, I wanted to make an announcement. I spoke to Joel Goodhart, and he's going to be a guest on our show as well. We're trying to get Paul. I'm going to have to probably do Paul as a different, just an interview on the phone like you did with me, Brian, that one time. Paul's not feeling that great. So we're going to probably just interview me and him talking, and then maybe put it on the show when Joel's here.
Yeah, no problem.
We wanted to maybe do a Rasslin Radio reunion kind of thing with that. So I think that would be good. And that's where we're going with this. So one thing at a time. I just really need you guys to be patient. I really need you guys to watch, because we have so many things that we're going to talk about. We have so many memories, so many things coming up. And then, maybe we're going to start, who knows, maybe we'll put a trip together at some point. Wouldn't that be nice? Who knows, right? I mean, come on. I mean, I'm all in now,
There you go.
I'm all for this. I'm in right now. Jeannie, do you have anything you want to add to this, doll?
No, just, send in those questions. Who would you like us to talk about? Who would you like us to interview? Who would you, any question, what would you like to hear? What stories would you like to hear? Things like that.
Well, I am going to add one more story before we do sign off at this point. A friend of mine messaged me during the week. He had listened to the podcast last week, and I mentioned something about getting hit in the head with a bottle when I was younger. And he said to me in the message that he sent me, he goes, well, that explains a lot. He said, you got hit in the head with a bottle. But what happened was, when I was about 13, I guess, maybe 14, we were at the Philadelphia Arena, where we always went. That and the Spectrum were the two big ones, Wildwood, that kind of stuff. And at the time, you could actually go to the ring. You could stand by the ring. You could touch it. You could pull on the apron. You could hit the ropes. I mean, you were allowed to do that. So, of course, that's where I was, And I believe Tony Gurria was the match that was on. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try and get him on here too, but he doesn't know anything about this, but this is when it happened. Anyway, I'm there with my friend, and we're just banging and yelling and screaming like kids do. And I felt my head go forward like this. And I said to my friend, I said, I wonder if I got hit in the head with something. And I'm just, and then I put my hand up to my head, and it was wet. And I thought, oh, God, somebody spilled soda on me, or somebody spit at me, because that's what they did a lot of, And I thought to myself, God. So I happened to turn my head several times. I turned to my friend, and my blood is just streaming down my face.
Wow,
okay?
yeah.
It's just blood everywhere. So she's like screaming at the top of her lungs, takes me back to my mother, okay, who was in the audience, and let us, run around wherever we wanted. Now, you got to understand, my mother, she used to be the East Coast Ringside Rosie. Okay. My mother, she would beat up a wrestler if she could.
Right.
She had no filter whatsoever. And she saw me, and she literally freaked out, but she remained calm. She just blotted my face off a little bit. We went, got an ambulance, and I had to get 6 or 7 stitches in my head. So the cut was pretty big. And then it was fine. I had to get stuff shaved off and all that other stuff. And my mother was like, never again. You're never going up to that ring again. And I was like, Ma, it could happen anywhere, and a lot of things happen, but it was fun. I mean, it was fun to be able to talk about it now. Of course, it wasn't fun when it happened, but it was cool riding in the ambulance at 13 or 14. Yeah, it was cool.
The only thing we had happen one time is my mom always took me to wrestling, and there was some guys that were standing where we went to go to wrestling. The heels came out of a dressing room. Where they came out of, it was like a little tube, a wooden tube, but you could actually stand on it if you wanted to, or around it, and yell at the wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them threw a beer to hit the wrestlers, and when they threw the beer, it went all the way. It hit over the wrestlers and went on my poor mom. And my mom's my mom's 5 foot, and she's just like, yeah. I mean, she was giving that guy hell. And I was a kid. I was thinking to myself, my mom was fixing to whip that guy's ass.
Oh yeah,
because she got beer on her.
Oh, anytime. My mom used to harass the wrestlers so much, and they loved it. I'll tell you some more stories about that on our next podcast. But she used to, in the front row, she always had the front row. We were friends with all the cops, all the wrestlers, and she would throw stuff at them. She would hit them. She would, and she with her
Oh,
umbrella
wow.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, and they loved her. I mean, they got mad at her. They yelled at her, while they were in the ring. But afterwards, we all went in the back, and it was so cool. Everything was really cool, and it was all forgotten. But that's why, again, that's why I want to go back to memories, because it's what it was like back then. It was wonderful, and I loved it. So
After the first episode and everything, I told the wife, I was like, your experience, and will make this, to me, the podcast will continue to be interesting, because your experience of way you were brought up in the business is different than the way I was brought up, blah blah blah. But it's like, I talked to, like, Kevin Lawler, for example, Jerry
Right.
Lawler's youngest son.
right,
He always just considered those people to be part of his life. He went
Exactly.
Monday night. He knew the wrestlers. It wasn't like it was anything big or special. It was just what they were doing. And it's me. I went from biggest fan in the world to hanging out with them, and I had that different, like, awe. I had that my God, Lawler's standing right by me. And then after that initial was out, you were able to say, okay, they're just people, like we said last time.
exactly.
I got to wrap it up, Carmela.
You got to go.
I got to go. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll
Thanks,
talk to you
everyone, for
later.
listening. We appreciate it.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. I'm going to stay on for another 5 minutes, and then I'll talk to you later on today.
All right, make
Bye,
sure you
Brian.
get that in record.
Okay, Jeannie says goodbye.
Bye, Jeannie.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, one more time, I'm going to give you the email address, 316 Carmela with 1 L, okay, at gmail.com. Brian had to leave. He also teaches class, so he had to go teach a class. We're very excited about this. You're going to get a link as to when you can see it, where we're going to be. We're going to try, Brian said today, we're going to try and get it on iHeart, iTunes. I'm turning my head because I'm talking to Jeannie. iHeart, iTunes, Spotify. I'm going to move over just a little bit. Jeannie, put a side of you on this chair with me real quick. There you go. There's my girl. Can you fit there? There you go. This is my girl. This is Jeannie. And we're going to do the podcast together every week. She's so wonderful. She's beautiful, and I love her. We go back a million years together as well. And one day we're going to tell you that story. We go back together with a long, long list of stuff with wrestling and just each other. And she was with me. God, even when I'm sitting down, you're taller than me. That's not even fair, Jeannie. God. But we're going to go back and talk about, if it wasn't for Jeannie, a lot of what I did, would not be able to be done. No. She helped us with our wrestling store, which you know nothing about yet, really. We're going to talk about our wrestling store. We're going to talk about writing the radio show, which she helped me do a million times. We're going to talk about being at the radio station, where Jeannie was also always a part of everything we did. So how could I have a podcast right now without putting her in there? She's my girl, and that's it. And
you're my idol.
No, stop that.
No.
But anyway, I'm sorry. We're going to go back to the email one more time. It's 316 Carmela, Carmela at gmail.com. Wanted to make this one a little bit fun. Last week was a lot more professional. We were all nervous. But this one's going to be a little bit more fun. I hope you enjoy it.
Gary was great.
Gary was great. Gary was amazing. We're going to have a lot more people on. Okay, so you're going to have to keep watching. You're going to have to keep listening. We're going to be back in 2 weeks, but next week we're going to air a Rasslin Radio tape. Okay, and I want comments. I want questions. I want all kinds of stuff from you. So send it, Facebook it, IG it, Twitter it, whatever you want to ask, just do it. And what I'd like to do at some point, maybe, if we have some of the old wrestling fans who were around when we were around, I would love to have some of you on the podcast as well. To me, this is a radio station. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But we'd like to have some of you on. We want to just open this up to everybody for every reason, for everything. Like I said before, we're not in competition with anybody. We're just having fun, and we're just bringing back some memories. Hopefully, they will be good for you as they were for us. So with that, we're going to say goodbye.
Yes.
And we'll see you next week you'll see one. You'll hear one, rather. There will be no video in that. But you're going to hear one. Hopefully you'll like it. Hopefully you keep coming back. And then we'll be back again in 2 weeks, okay? Take care. God bless you. Love you.
Bye.